Once upon a time, in the bustling village of Abeokuta, nestled in the heart of Nigeria, lived a young girl named Titi. At just 10 years old, Titi's life took a sudden turn when her single mother ran off with her lover and never looked back. She was left under the care of her frail but loving grandmother, Iyaleke. Iyaleke was poor, but she was rich in wisdom and love. She tried her best to raise Titi right by instilling so much wisdom and discipline in her, and also being very loving to her. Iyaleke sold bananas at Shango Market, and every morning she would wake Titi up, and together they would prepare the bananas they would hawk at Shango Market. Titi, with her bright eyes and hopeful spirit, would walk the crowded market and dusty roads, calling out to passers-by, her voice echoing with a blend of determination and a child's innocence. One day, Titi came back from the market and met Auntie Fumi, her mother's younger sister, sitting with Iyaleke in front of their compound. She dropped the tray in her hand and ran to hug her. Titi was so happy to see Auntie Fumi, who looked so much like her mother, and welcomed her warmly. She had just had a baby, and when Titi saw the baby in Iyaleke's arms, she felt very joyful and quickly took the baby from Iyaleke and began to play with him. Titi loved babies, and when she learnt that Auntie Fumi wanted her to come live with her so that she could help her take care of the baby, she did not object to that. Her only worry was leaving Iyaleke alone in this village. But Fumi assured her that she would send her to school and that she could come to visit Iyaleke as often as she wanted. So Titi moved in with Fumi in a faraway village of Itire, but she soon began to regret her decision. Fumi made her work tirelessly in the farm and fed her with leftover food, which wasn't even enough to feed a baby. Also, she beat her mercilessly at every slightest provocation and often called her a useless child. Titi wanted to return to her loving grandmother, Iyaleke, but unfortunately, she didn't know her way back to Abeokuta. She endured the beating and the starvation, but some of their neighbors began to notice how thin and weary Titi was becoming. Some of them would give her food to eat whenever Fumi was not at home. One day, Fumi came back from the market and met her eating. "Who gave you that food you are eating?" she asked angrily. Titi explained to her that the food was given to her by one of their neighbors. But Fumi was so angry and accused Titi of gossiping about her with the neighbors whenever she wasn't at home. Before Titi could explain further, Fumi picked up the plate of food and threw it away. Then, as she began to pounce on her, the village vigilante group arrived with some neighbors who had informed them about Titi's situation. Fumi was arrested by the vigilante group for child abuse and taken to the chief palace, where she was punished and fined. Titi knew that if she continued to live with Fumi, she would one day kill her, especially now that she was being punished and fined for her sake. So there in the palace, she insisted that she wanted to return to her grandmother. So Fumi was ordered by the village chief to take Titi back to Abeokuta in the company of 2 other women. Iyaleke broke down with tears when she saw Titi looking so thin and malnourished. Titi narrated her ordeal at Fumi's house to Iyaleke, and they wept together. Iyaleke vowed never to let Titi out of her sight again. Years passed and Titi grew into a resilient teenager. Despite the hardships, she harbored the dreams of a better future. One day, while sitting under the shade of an old mango tree, she watched a group of women making intricate beads. Their hands moved swiftly, creating beautiful patterns that shimmered in the sunlight. Fascinated, Titi decided then and there that she would learn this craft. With her grandmother's blessings, Titi apprenticed herself to a local bead maker. She worked diligently, her fingers nimble and her mind sharp, absorbing every technique and design. Her hard work paid off, and soon Titi became independent of her boss. She worked even harder and did quite well for herself in bead-making business, and soon became well known for her exquisite beadwork. Her fame spread beyond Abeokuta, and people from distant villages came to purchase her creations. As her success grew, so did the number of her suitors. Young men from far and wide sought her hand in marriage, dazzled by her beauty and success. But Titi was wise beyond her years and took her time, waiting for a man that would love her for who she was and not for her fortune. One day, feeling the need for a fresh perspective, Titi decided to travel to a neighboring village. She dressed simply, leaving behind her fine clothes and jewelry, and presented herself as a poor girl looking for work in a big farm in Ojo village. It was there she met Olamide, the prince and heir to the throne of Ojo dynasty. Olamide was an arrogant prince who was very strict with his farm workers. He provided accommodation and feeding for his workers, but he always demanded extra hard work from them. When Titi learned about all this, she was determined to work in Prince Olamide's farm, no matter what it takes. Working hard has become a part of her, and she wasn't one to back off from challenges. Olamide began to observe Titi's resilient spirit whenever he was in the farm. He also observed that she had kind eyes and gentle spirit, and soon he found himself developing soft spot for her. He treated Titi special from the rest of the workers. Sometimes he would bring roasted bushmeat and ask Titi to sit down and eat with him, which Titi often declined. But it did not take long before they began to form a bond. They spent most evenings talking under the stars, and Olamide admired Titi's level of intelligence and was drawn to her dignified aura. Given that he had no idea of her true identity, Titi cherished this chance of being admired for who she was. When Titi finally revealed her identity, Olamide was torn, but his feelings for her remained unchanged. He had fallen in love with Titi not for her wealth or her fame, but for her heart and her spirit. A few months later, they got married in a joyful ceremony attended by friends and family from both villages. Titi and Olamide lived a happily married life as they both cherished each other and supported each other's career in every way possible. Titi continued to make intricate beads, her work now more inspired than ever, and together they built a life filled with love, respect, and shared dreams. Titi never forgot the sacrifices her grandmother Iyaleke made for her. As her bead-making business continued to flourish, and her life with Olamide settled into a joyous routine, Titi sought ways to honor the woman who had been her rock. One sunny afternoon, Titi went to Abeokuta to visit her grandmother. After they chatted for a while, Titi took Iyaleke on a walk through the village, gently guiding her through the bustling streets to a newly built house. The house was modest but sturdy, with a cozy veranda in the lush garden, brimming with vibrant flowers. It was a far cry from the dilapidated hut they had once shared. "This is your new home, Iyaleke," Titi said, her voice choked with emotion. "You will never have to worry about anything again." Iyaleke's eyes filled with tears as she embraced her grandmother. "You have made me so proud, Titi. This is more than I could have ever dreamed." Titi also ensured that her grandmother had all the care and comfort she needed. She hired help to assist with household chores and provided for the best medical care. Iyaleke spent her days in peace, surrounded by the beauty of her new home and the love of her grandchild. Years went by and Titi's life continued to thrive. One day, a woman appeared at her doorstep. It was her mother, now aged and worn, her eyes filled with regret and sorrow. She knelt before Titi, tears streaming down her face. "Titi, my daughter, please forgive me," she begged. "I was young and foolish, and I made terrible mistakes. I have lived with the guilt of abandoning you every day. Please find it in your heart to forgive me." Titi's heart ached as she looked at the woman who had abandoned her all these years. The pain of her terrible childhood experiences resurfaced, but so did the teachings of Iyaleke about compassion and forgiveness. She took a deep breath, remembering the strength it took to overcome her past. "Mama," Titi said softly, lifting her mother to her feet. "I have carried the weight of your absence for so many years, but I have also learned that holding on to anger will only hurt me even more. I will forgive you, not because it is easy, but because it is necessary for us to heal." Titi embraced her mother and they wept together, releasing years of pent-up emotions. Titi's mother stayed with them, and over time, they rebuilt their relationship. It wasn't easy, but they found a way to move forward. Titi's life was now filled with love, success, and reconciliation, a testament to the strength of the human spirit. All right. Hope you enjoyed this story. If you did, please press the like button and also subscribe to this channel. Thank you.